Hello and welcome to another video. In today's video we're going to be continuing with our 3 Rideamatics project. Now both of the 1962s in this project are running, and hopefully if everything goes well today, which it usually doesn't, but if it does, we might have the green 1961 running as well. Now, before we get started today, we've had a couple of things arrive in the mail that we wanted to show you. So the first box here is something that we bought off of American eBay, which is another pair of these kind of rear linkage arms, which, if I use the orange 1962 here, they fit one each side, kind of on the sides of the chassis there. Then you use that to attach your plows, your rotavators, everything like that. And we'd been missing a few sets of these. We did get a couple of pairs, and I think this might be the last pair that we need, so that's good. So, one fewer bit that we need to get from America for all of our Rideamatics. The other thing that we bought was some of this PB blaster, kind of releasing agent stuff. Because when we were trying to get the head bolts off of this engine, we struggled quite a lot, and we usually use plus gas releasing agent, which we thought works quite well. Yeah, we did still struggle quite a bit with those, whereas Artie, and his channel is gravelyman, was taking some head bolts off recently using this stuff, and did it significantly easier than we did. So we thought we would get hold of some of this PB blaster and compare it to plus gas, see what we prefer. Now, Artie does a lot of work on walk behind machines, and I highly recommend you check out his channel. There will be a link in the description down below, so if you get a minute, feel free to head over there. But now we will start on the remaining jobs on the 1961. Now, as mentioned previously, something that we're going to test today is the run out on the crankshaft, seeing as this had its flywheel fly off in the past, and we wanted to make sure there wasn't any damage to the crankshaft. Now, we have done a couple of other things between these two videos. However, we're going to do this first, seeing as this apparatus is now set up and it's kind of blocking a couple of other things. But the only good place we could really find for mounting this was on the starter generator, which is hard up against its mounting point there, and being held there by the springs. That isn't going anywhere. And this is the only point on the crankshaft that we could find really that is the same size all the way around. If you go further back, then you have the woodruff key, further forward you have the thread, so that was the best place we could find. As it says on the face of that gauge, each marker is 1/100th of a millimetre, so obviously a tiny fraction of an inch. And if I turn this over now, we will see it does seem to be fluctuating a tiny bit. I would say that that's pretty much just kind of 1/100th of a millimetre fluctuation there. So I would say, seeing as there could be that much in terms of inaccuracies just in the material of it not being machined correctly, I'd say that we're happy with this crankshaft being straight and there being no damage remaining from when the flywheel flew off of it. What we'll now do is take all this stuff off and run you through what we've done before starting this video. Now, with all of that measuring stuff out of the way, we can talk about what we've done before this video. Now, firstly, we've put a new white wire that goes here from the starter motor to the regulator. The old one was way too tight. When the starter generator was all the way back here, it was actually pulling the regulator downwards, which is not what you want. So we put a longer wire on there, and that means that it's nice and out of the way as well, so that's an improvement. We've put a new fuel pipe on here with a new inline filter on there as well. and we've routed it differently to how the old one was. It's a much simpler path that literally just goes out of the fuel tank up into the carburetor, whereas the other one kind of went round here and just got in the way of everything else. We've also fitted up the throttle cable again and mounted it in a slightly different position. Instead of going on the valve casing bolt back there, we've gone on another thread point on the block there, which means that the throttle cable is slightly straighter to the mounting point on the governor. So that's a bit of an improvement there as well. Now moving to the back, we've fitted the battery and the battery hold down. The battery's been on charge for quite a while, so that is juiced up and ready to go. Also refitted the seat, so the only thing left to do back here is just connect up the earth cable, but we didn't want to do that until we were fully ready to start it, because we're not sure whether we trust the electrics on this yet or not, because obviously we haven't had this running yet. So I would say the remaining things to do on this today are to take these two bolts out, because they're not serving any purpose, seeing as we've gone to battery ignition now. Put a new Woodruff key in there, which we've found before this video. We got to put the flywheel on, cowling on, and then pretty much it's just giving it a try. So, first bit of this video is going to be assembling some parts. We have all of our parts laid out here. We've got all of our engine tin, which we've got the main bit, top part, and the two sides, which both of those side parts came from the original engine for the orange 1962. They will be returned to that engine shortly, because we have agreed to buy some side parts off of someone that we know. So this will have its own engine cowling, and then that engine doesn't have more parts nicked from it. We also have here the bracket to mount the hood on, and that will need at least one spacer on top of that head bolt so that that sits evenly. We have our flywheel pulley there and our flywheel, which when it comes to fixings, we've already cleaned out both of the puller hole threads there, so that's something we don't have to do when it comes to pulling that off in future. And lock nuts. This is the lock nut that came with this flywheel. However, when you thread it on here, it seems pretty loose. It doesn't do much locking at all. So, rightly or wrongly, we're going to do something different, and shout at us if you think we're doing the wrong thing, considering the history of this engine and throwing flywheels. We're going to keep the flat washer that came with and put a new spring washer on top, and then a new nut to replace that lock nut. So that's the kind of arrangement that we'll be going with. Now, as you can see, we've already got the Woodruff key on there. So, time to try to line this up. Always a bit difficult, especially since you can't see it at all. However, I think that is on. So that's good. Now the pulley, which I'm not fully sure where you're meant to line this aluminium part up to, whether it's there or does it go into one of these thread holes? I think that probably goes into there. And then, of course, as I was saying, flat washer, spring washer, and the nut. As you can see dangling off the starter generator, we've already got the belt for this, but that will go on. Once we've got all the cowling and stuff on, we'll do that as a final touch, I think. Now we've got the torque settings for this from the manual, so that's going to get torqued up now, because considering the history of this engine and flywheels, we don't want any mishaps whatsoever. Well, that was all going too easily. We've torqued up the nut here to 90 foot-pounds, which the manual says 85 to 90, but we wanted to be on the tighter side, considering this engine's history. And then we moved on to trying to see whether the cowling would fit, which we assumed it would, but That was a bit naive of us. We seem to have the same issues as when we were putting the cowling on the orange 1962, where it just doesn't really fit. We've already spent multiple hours trying to get it to fit, and it's going in the right direction, but we're going to have to spend a bit more time doing some panel beating to try and get this into a shape where it fits on here, and we can turn the pulley here without it scraping on the inside of the cowling. So we'll come back to you in a little while, and hopefully we will have a solution for this. It was much easier on the orange 62 because we had a backup plan, whereas we don't really for this, so this kind of has to work. Another few hours later now, and as you can see, all of the cowling and stuff is finally on. This hood bracket is only on there temporarily at the moment, but the rest of it is fixed on. And if you kind of look at the side of this, I don't know if you can actually see by the profile of it how we've kind of shrunk the middle bit a bit and stretched the outside bit to make it fit, which it just about does now, which we could have done with a kind of shrinker stretcher tool, which we've been meaning to get for quite a while, but we've had to do it all manually by hand this time. But that now fits, and the only downside really is that the hole for the pulley isn't central. There's more kind of gap on this side than this side, because obviously this side's been stretched more. However, it doesn't rub or anything like that, so that is fine. Now, we're not going to keep you in suspense by saying that this is the end of this video, even though we have run out of time for today. So we will see you effectively next week, but for you watching this, that will only be a few seconds. It is a week later now, and the tractor is off the stand, as you can see here. Now, during that week, we were hoping to check whether this had a good spark and was getting fuel through and stuff like that. However, we didn't manage to, because we did some other stuff with this instead. We actually found out that the battery we'd put in it was dead, and we went through probably 3 or 4 batteries trying to find a good one, which we've now found here, charged that up, and that is now sitting in the battery cage, ready to try to start this in a minute. Also, we managed to get a hold of some spare engine tin, which is this side part here, the kind of L-shaped part, and this other part on the side, which means the bits we had borrowed from the original engine that came out of the orange 1962, these can go back with that engine now, and we're not effectively borrowing parts. This has parts that can stay with this engine forever, pretty much. So that is another step forward with that. Now, since we didn't get a chance to test whether fuel was getting through and stuff like that, we're just going to do it with you on video effectively. So what we're now going to do is connect up the battery again, turn the fuel tap on, and go straight into seeing whether this will start or not. Now, as you may have noticed, the grille and bonnet are not on because our confidence levels aren't very high with this. We're not fully sure what to expect, so we'll just have to see. But can't really stall anymore, we'd better give this a go.
Give it a little bit of throttle.
Okay. warm up a little bit and made some minor carburetor adjustments, because we noticed that when we tried to increase the throttle, it really didn't like it. You have to go really slowly for it to actually not stall when you try to increase the throttle. So not sure if that's a governor issue or just, I don't know, something else with this engine that's a bit of an oddity. However, this seems to start really nicely on tickover, so that is good. We're happy with that. So now what we're going to try to do is take it for a drive and see if it'll do the second part effectively. Here we go. It just needed a bit of choke, and it started quite easily now. And now it's warmed up a bit, it's actually happy to change throttle quickly or quicker, but I think we still have some carb adjustments to do. Now I'm sure there's any number of jobs that we will find on this tractor once we've used it a bit and gotten to know it a bit better. But for now, for us to kind of close out this project, the main job that we need to do is get the hood and the grille back on. And for that, we usually leave this part a bit loose on a 1961 Rideamatic, because obviously the dash panel is fixed and the hood attaches here and here. Also need to take the fuel tank cap off, just because it's easier to put the hood over then, and this cap doesn't go through the hole. I'm not sure if the factory cap would have or not. I think this is an aftermarket one that someone's put on there. Anyway, line it up with the back, line it up with the front, put the bolts through, and then we can tighten that up. Then just need to slot the grille into those two holes there, slide it underneath the bonnet or hood, and then tighten up this bolt, and it should be all fixed. But we will do this off camera and come back to you in just a second with it all fitted up. The hood and the grille are now fitted again, which means besides the two belt guards, this tractor is pretty much complete again, which is good. A couple of things that we noticed when we were kind of taking it for a drive, and now that we've got it back into the workshop. Firstly, the back axle is a bit noisy when we were driving around, so that'll need some investigation. Also, it's already kind of dampening our workshop floor. As you can see under there, there is a bit of a leak on one of the gearbox oil seals, so that will need investigating, find out which one that is, and at some point in the future replace that so that it's not leaving oil everywhere that it goes. And also we've noticed that this, like our other electric start Rideamatics, is shredding its belt, and there's plenty of blue belt fur all over this, as you can see. So I'm not fully sure with this whether that is because the spring isn't strong enough to hold it back. It does kind of bounce a bit, which that's the original spring, so that might be the reason, or whether once this is worn down a little bit it will stop shredding it as much and kind of break it in, as it were. But we'll have to see whether that continues to do that. But now, when it comes to our 3 Rideamatics project, this 1961 Rideamatic is a runner. Both of the 1962s in this project also run. So the aim of this project was to get all 3 of these tractors running, and we've pretty much done that now. So that means that we will probably have one more video in this series as a kind of overview, but we are pretty much at the end. So please let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below about the 1961 Rideamatic and how it runs. But that is it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.